Welcome to Enter the Dragonfly. Yeah, we taking flight, you see.
Welcome to Enter the Dragonfly, brought to you by Dragonfly Academy of Integrated Defensive Arts, where we will take a deep dive each and every week into every possible way that somebody could try to kill you and everything that you can possibly do to prevent that from happening.
Yeah,
Because
for sure.
you are unique, man. You've been doing this for a while, and your purpose is very, very specific, and I appreciate you a lot.
I think that. I appreciate you as well. I'm only as unique as every other individual flower that exists.
Yeah.
Well said. I like that.
So
That's good. By the way, that is kind of genius because to do it, I wouldn't have had the forethought to have it review all of the Keep Kicking podcasts and then come up with the synopsis of it. That is very smart.
Okay, then I'm smart. Okay, 945 acorn. The broken clock is right for the first time today. So I appreciate that.
I always quote Socrates because Socrates said, "I'm the smartest man alive," before I realize I know nothing.
Amen. Amen. I heard a quote. I'm going to be random midway off it, but I like to hear both you guys' thoughts on it because it gave me chills. In fact, I think I reposted the video. It's a little guy beating up a big guy after a lot of attrition. But the quote that was astonishing to me was, "The mountain is bigger than the river, but the river determines the shape of the mountain. The river does not win in an instant. It simply never stops arriving." Wow. The river does not win in an instant. It simply never stops arriving. I love that. I love that as a meditation on tenacity.
Mm-hmm.
That reminds me of I think it's called Gaoxuan in Chinese, which means the valley, because where you want to be is the valley because that's the spot where the resources all gather.
Right.
So,
Wonderful.
yeah.
I like that
So
a lot.
thank you. This is a thrill.
Long
So,
game.
I'm wearing pants. Most times that's just a given, then I might not, depending upon who the guest is. But I am fully dressed out of respect for you.
Well,
Oh, that was great.
Appreciate that. Appreciate that. I guess
Unless
we're 2 for 2 there.
wants to start. I would love to start with which question compelled you the most.
There's a question that is, I don't remember the exact wording. If martial arts went away today, what would you want to preserve?
Okay.
And that question does two things in my mind. First of all, the questions are amusing to me just because I'm probably more of a philosopher than a martial artist, in just the way that I've built myself. But like, first there's the ego part of that's like wants to cling to martial art. And then my second, so it's like, no, there's too much to lose. There's too much that would be lost. But then the second response is, well, maybe if it washed away and we were able to rebuild it, we could get rid of the egos that exist. We could get rid of the trap that we're all fallible superhumans. We could get rid of all of the things that are the toxic parts of the community that are currently bad. Because where I'm at with my current relationship of martial arts is, I was talking to somebody else and they said, fundamentally, anytime we create any content, throw it out, we're really only speaking to mostly the people that are martial artists. And so the people that are in the comments, that won't work, this won't work, it's creating a culture that alienates an audience that's already alienated, whether it be because they're not violent people and they don't want to participate in violence, or maybe they just had somebody bad talk martial arts to them. Oh, you're going to do that silly shit in pajamas? You know what I'm saying? So, like, the first part of the question, what do you cultivate or keep or hang on to if martial arts goes away, has to be the traditional. Like, the answer is that it has to be, look at that thumbs up. It has to be.
That's crazy.
It has to be traditional. It has to be the forms. It has to be. It might be because I'm on a Mac. Probably. So forms and the tactics or techniques that your art has, that's what you have to preserve, because that's the traditional stuff, because that's the books. Mm-hmm. That's the books. Ed Parker said, when I give you a martial arts form, I'm really giving you a book. And you can read it however you want. You can read just the front, you can read just the back, just chapter 3. You can read it in a British accent. You can read it backwards. You can read it while holding the book in your left hand. And it's your responsibility to digest that form and to read it as in as many different ways as you can. And I think that if we take the forms and we take that traditional stuff and we preserve it, that's what's important. But I'm actually more interested in what we could get rid of or purge out via a purging fire if martial arts cease to exist.
Say more about that.
Wow.
Well, that's where my mind takes it. Is I was thinking about the genesis of martial arts, and if you really study the history and drill down to it, kung fu and karate, being Chinese and Japanese in generic terms, they looked strikingly similar if we go back to the 1500s, the 1600s, because a lot of the people were training to fight each other. We're trying, like, Japan and Korea teamed up to go, or no, it was China and Korea teamed up to go against Japan in a war in 1600. And so they, like, Chinese art and Korean art at that point in time, they looked practically identical, right? And so what happens? Tribalism kind of gets in the way. So now Japan's got its own style, China has its own style, Korea has its own style. You also have, like, America took the world stage with boxing in the early 90s, and Japan immediately was like, we have stuff for that. So they made sports karate, they made judo, they made jiu-jitsu, and they broke all the arts up. And I think that there's a bit of a disservice in breaking the arts up, and it also solidifies the ego problem that I feel like exists. Because judo's the best, I can throw this guy so hard, I can do this and that. And I think that if we were allowed to purging fire or dissolve it, and you get back to that essence, a human body moves this way. We move more efficient this way. And then it's just playing around with those efficiencies and those angles.
Right. We call it the search for universals. And I love, first of all, that was probably the most Buddhist philosophy answer you could have ever given. So I love that.
Oh, sorry, my Buddhism showing. I'll put it up.
Your Buddhism showing. Expect nothing less from the immediate purging of the ego. I loved it. And the mention 1609, Satsuma clan invasion. Absolutely. I think those things it was such a solid answer across the board. So I think we jumped to number 7, if I'm not mistaken. But God, we're going to make that number 1 and lead with that, because that was just phenomenal.
But it says, every week we'll discuss all the ways that someone might try to kill you and everything you do to keep your ass alive. Yeah,
love it.
And that's what this is. That's got to be. We got to keep it real. I love the fact that people like Randy King are reclaiming the term self-defense, because self-defense has become a platitude. The reason I stopped using the word street fight and started using the term unsanctioned bout. And I stopped using self-defense and started using the term violence management. But we can reclaim self-defense if we're honest and we put it out there. And like you said, if we purge the folly, by fire, this is a great chance for a golden age of the martial arts.
Right.
But before I forget, when you said the one thing that would return immediately would have to be the form. The form's distinct to the culture. I love that, because you can learn how to fight, and we should know how to fight. We must know how to manage violence, but the forms are the fork and the knife. Andy Rooney, I heard him say maybe 50 years ago, but it burned it into my brain. He said, let us never forget that we do not use a fork and a knife because it is the most efficient way to funnel sustenance into an orifice. And that hit me. We use them because we figure ourselves a bit above, grabbing a handful of mashed potatoes and shoving them into our pie hole. And that's what the form represents. That's what that beauty of that culture.
I like that.
And if anything has to come back, it's got to be that. In that scenario.
I heard a friend of mine say, if you watch a dad who teaches a son how to box, that's a guy who's teaching his kid how to fight. Right. But if you watch a guy who teaches his son a martial art form, feels like that's doing more. Feels like maybe that's about living.
Right. Yeah, a lot of excellent lessons, parables there. I think yours, you don't call it self-defense, though, either. You want to tell that story there and how you got to your definition?
I call it self-preservation. And there's a lot of reasons to that, but first of all, I feel it disingenuous for somebody to do, like, we all are of the time frame that in the 90s and early 2000s, the buzz at every martial arts school was the 4-hour self-defense clinic day.
Right.
People come in and you get to kick the guy in the balls while he's wearing the full red suit, the whole jazz. I feel that very disingenuous, and in some capacities, it makes me feel like I'm putting people in more danger to offer that. It's a false sense of security. It is incredibly just disingenuous to the culture of what martial arts is. You know, black belt is not the end of the road. Black belt's the beginning of the road, and you don't get black belt in 4 hours.
Right.
So you shouldn't do the same thing for self-defense. Also, in taking the Matsumoto quote, there are no winners in fights.
No,
you know, and self-defense kind of is like, oh, well, there's a winner. He defended. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to weather a storm. So it's that in part. Also, in understanding that, you know, the three of us are probably kind of not right in the head and enjoy hurting people, but most of the people that come into a martial arts school aren't that. And so then it became how to navigate and how to help them.
We can muster the righteous indignation if the moment arises. But you talk about being disingenuous. It's disingenuous on both ends. It doesn't disserve us to the real martial arts, and it doesn't disserve us to bad breath raised really for real ugly street. You know, it's neither. Yeah. It's neither.
I'm really trying to. I love martial arts so much. I love the community so much. So I'm just trying to like really change it, and I feel like part of it is also in changing violence as a word. Right? Is the UFC violence?
No,
I don't think so.
No,
I don't think so.
They have the capability of becoming violent, but
but it's not violent.
Tell me about that.
It's not violent if there's rules.
Somebody's throwing sweaty gloves at you. It's pretty violent. I've almost
so
go ahead.
I'm going to give you a term that I want you to think about.
Okay.
As martial artists in a martial arts school, it has been said to me by a friend of mine that we practice ceremonial violence. It is not real violence, but it is close as we can comfortably walk to the line of violence. Okay?
Right.
So if we amp that up, put that on steroids, the larger, more beefed up version is the UFC. So if you think about any pro fight, the UFC or whatever, that pro fight is ceremonial violence. And so, the only way to experience violence is an attack, unfortunately.
Yeah. No, that's 100% right. Absolutely agree with you. And that's the reason, what you talk about, ceremonial violence. Why did the Gracies smash so much when they first came up? Because at the same time in Japan, they were creating that ceremony of a higher level, to where I was a gentleman, to where I tapped before I ever ate mud. In Brazil, you had a bunch of brothers holding each other down, drooling, spitting them, making them eat worms, and you had to figure out the way out. It was entirely different. Why Muay Thai and Western boxing back through the 90s and the early 2000s always seemed to kick the shit out of karate is because they tried to hit each other with bad intention in the dojo. They didn't protect, as Connor said, they didn't protect the fantasy. Too many dojos protect fantasy by not allowing their students to hurt each other intentionally or unintentionally. Absolutely. You know, and you got to feel that. Absolutely. You got to know that you're not going to die when you get busted in the nose. Absolutely. And part of learning that is just weathering that storm. You know, and I taught a new self-preservation clinic about 2 months ago. So I had a new group of people coming in, and one of the ladies. What I do when I do my first class for a new group, we spend the first 40-ish minutes, 30-ish minutes, somewhere in there, where I just give rundown. Things that people need to be aware of. Boundaries need to be set. They need to be expressed, and they need to be reinforced. And if you can do those three successfully, then most of the time, you navigate the situation in a way that brings you out the other side without having to get to physical confrontation. I talk about controlling your face, because how many fights start because... something like that. And then now you've got two people arguing, and arguing turns into pushing because you're drunk, turns into somebody getting stabbed with a beer bottle. So we talk about those like sort of de-escalation techniques, right? Then the very next thing that I do is I just teach a very basic punch.
I want you to know how to hit. Okay? And then after I do that, I pair everybody off and they just hit and press. They're not hitting each other. We're just pressing. I want both people to have that tactile experience where one is seeing what pushing with a fist feels like and the other's feeling impact. I did that in this class, and one of the ladies that was present stopped me and she goes, "This is so fascinating to me because when I signed up for the class, I thought I had kind of a baseline of understanding of things and I knew what I wasn't going to know. But now I realize growing up as a woman in our society, I don't even have a baseline of play fighting."
Right.
Because
You're
you're
part of
a
their
little girl.
culture.
Girls don't fight.
Right.
Girls don't fight. And what kind of disservice are we doing just in that one thing to half the community? Like,
Yeah, it would be a huge
They're the most
disservice,
vulnerable.
especially with their likelihood.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
That part's just
Yeah,
huge.
I like that you're teaching a straight punch.
Mm-hmm.
When I first got on TikTok, one of the strongest debates, or most vibrant debates, was a heel palm versus fist. And Cat's in my camp with it. I have so many problems with using the heel palm, with teaching the heel palm, especially from the first premise of you might break your hand if you hit him with a fist. If your very first thought is how I can minimize damage to myself with my attacks, you're not in a good space. You're not. Break that hand on his jaw, break his jaw, and go ice it up later while you're calling 911 or while you're answering questions. Don't think about, well, that's going to hurt me. This isn't. But aside from the point of impact, aside from the psychological advantage of, man, that fist is one of the reasons we evolved. Our opposable thumbs and our available, the availability to put that human rock in somebody's face. But yeah, I love that. And so you talk about, we'll call it pre-escalation. Pre-escalation is the most important part. That part, like you said, recognizing I'm not going to make any
that
cases,
beforehand.
That beforehand.
We say because I say if you're out somewhere and you feel unsafe, you should leave, because leaving means you're disappointed, and disappointed is a condition of being alive.
I love that.
I like that.
But, I don't have to say. I have picked my verbiage specifically to not say things that are edged. I don't need to say that's going to kill you. You're going to die. I don't need to say that. I just need to say let's do it my way because of the alternative. And I do think that helps. I was going to express the reason that I start with a punch. Okay, and there's two folds to this. Fold one is most everybody that doesn't know how to fight very well, they're going to throw fists because that's just what we're wired in our society and used to. So I want them to make the fist the right way and hit with the right part so that they don't hurt themselves. And then the other thing too is, like any good karate or martial arts journey, we start as a bud of a flower, and it takes a long time for the flower to open up.
I like that.
Right.
That's good.
Very good.
Thanks. I love the analogies. You always have excellent analogies with these. That was awesome. Last time we were having that conversation with Kat, and I was like, neither. I like elbows and knees, but that's just me.
And if they got that close, so I did something wrong.
Right.
Well,
for sure.
Maybe I'm getting in kissing range and doing that, but I'd like to keep them. Maybe not. Maybe you're right. Because especially now in my old age, elbows and knees seem a lot more energy efficient. And also put you in that trapping range and put you in that throwing range and all that good stuff.
We've got a technique in Kempo called deflecting hammer. It's like a yellow belt technique where somebody kicks you, and you do this downward block, and you shuffle in and grab the back of their head, and you hit. And one of the things I always like to tell everybody with these and why those base techniques are so important, you're not standing up through many elbows and knees that are landed. And you watch, and I hate the UFC as the example of violence, but it's the closest we can legally get. And if you break down any watching of this, when they do the slow-mo, you will watch repetitive misses. But you rarely get missed with an elbow. You're probably, because you are that close, and whether it's a forward or a backward or a side or an outward, you're probably going to catch them with something there. And that pure compact pressure is most likely going to do enough damage that instead of the front two knuckles, and even if I miss, I've got from here to here. Even if I miss on this side, I got from here to here. So I'm catching him with something. And just... we always just say knees and elbows and fights, but that's
they do indeed. They're also efficient to teach somebody that is less violent because we're already covered. We're rolling with stuff, so it's already there. I also kind of express to my students that the difference in the way martial arts as a whole handles fights versus other fighting styles or ways is that we want connection and we want less distance, and that makes it better.
That's right. The infighting.
Yeah.
Infighting is huge.
First rule is attach, adhere, and follow. Attach, adhere, and follow. I had an instructor, a teacher, Shifu, one time. They said, when you understand that principle, when you understand attach, adhere, and follow, then time and space become replaced by change in relationship. And that boggled my mind for so many years. But it's true. That time and space no longer matters. Where I am, the relationship, where I need to be to maintain my, safety, my personal safety zone. Yeah.
What belief about martial arts have you completely abandoned over the years?
The superhero belief, right? And also, like, we have this, the buzzwords now are white belt mentality. And I get what you're trying to say. Can we just say student mentality? I'm not always starting at square one. Sometimes new information comes to light, and you are allowed to go, I was wrong about all of this subject, and go back to one. That's fair. But there's an ego of, I have to be better than you, I have to be better than you. When the reality is, we're all of these dogs in cages next to each other, and we're growling at each other because we're the bigger, stronger, alpha, whatever. When the reality is, when you open all the cages and you let them out into the field, we're friends. And the people that are afraid of dogs are not reaching over the fence to try and touch them.
That's true.
I love that. All right, turning point, when did you stop trying to become a better martial artist and start trying to become a better human being?
I think that is something, that was one of the questions that I enjoyed because it has some sort of fallibility to it, right? Already. I think that that's something that we struggle with. It's cyclical. It's not linear. I think that I am always trying to be a better me. And if I had to say when that switch turned on, it turned on when my uncle killed himself and I knew that I was safe, because like the air's lifted and you're like, now what? And now what becomes, give this to other people so that they can help themselves, and let's do the dark work. Let's do the healing work. And I think that that's when it happened for me.
Yeah, but you got to give that some context. Talk some more about that. About your uncle and why you felt safe when they committed suicide.
I'm the short. You are not.
I might be.
Are you? You might be.
I'm not remembering. We talked about it during our interview.
Oh no, I don't.
It was during Flashback Perspectives. We just posted that on YouTube. Yeah, please.
Okay, well, don't give us the short version.
Don't give the short version.
You can tell. We got time. Go ahead. You want to tell the story?
Yeah.
Well, okay. So when I sit down to teach classes on trauma-informed martial arts and on how to heal trauma through martial arts, I say I'm a 5th degree black belt in Shaolin Kempo with a 1st degree sash in Tai Chi and a discipleship in Wu Fa Ching Wing Chun. I have been doing martial arts for 33 years and teaching for 29 years. That's my martial arts resume, so that when I speak about martial things, you understand where I'm coming from. Then I say, I was born with a birth defect that is called pectus chest, and I was operated on at 26 months old. I was sick for most of my childhood. When I was 9 years old, an alcoholic uncle started abusing me, and when I was 10, that abuse became sexual, which what led me to my first martial arts class. I put myself in martial arts, and I withstood another year of abuse from the time I was 10 to the time I was 11, when one day at 11, he comes up behind me to choke me, and instinct, martial arts, wherewithal, fortitude, spidey sense, whatever you want to label it, kicked in. I did the same technique that we drilled in Kempo class dozens of times: seal the hand, turn, and throw him down. And in one move, the 11-year-old took down the big bad guy. He had to have 9 stitches across the forehead. He said that he didn't remember what happened. He was drunk and fell, is what he assumed, is what he said. But he never touched me again. So at 11, I did end that for myself. But he wasn't acknowledging that I was what happened. So I thought, when is he lying to everybody else? And he's about to whoop my ass even more? Is it going to get worse? I was constantly under this like fight, flight, in between there sort of stage of like, look around the corner. It's got to be coming always. And then when I was 16 years old, he attempted suicide once by driving drunk into a tree at about 70 miles an hour. The result was He was drunk, so he didn't get hurt. But he broke both his collarbones. He broke first like 6 top ribs. He was in an upper body cast, jaw wired shut. For the time that he was like that, I took care of him. I was his caregiver. I fed him.
Fuck? How did that happen? Was it just happenstance? The family were the only one and they didn't know anything about the situation?
No, my family did not know about this situation until I was 21 or 22.
Okay. Yeah.
I kept it under lock and key because so this is parts that I haven't really talked about, is that in addition to it being physical violence, it was also emotional and mental abuse. I was told things like, I'm making you a man. You won't be worth a damn if you don't go through this. This is how men are sculpted. Stuff like that, right? If I cried when I was hit harder because men don't cry and don't show weakness. And so when I'm 11, right? And I put him on his ass and he comes back. He kept the verbal and the mental abuse. He kept that going. So that was just something that I kind of endured. And because I endured that, I stayed into the pattern of maybe it'll happen again. But the reason I didn't tell anybody is because he swore that if I told somebody, he was going to either A, hurt my grandmother, or B, my mother. And I couldn't handle that as a reality. So I put him on his ass. He continues that like mental barrage of abuse all the way through when I'm 16. He gets in the car wreck. I'm taking care of him because my other 2 uncles they're mentally handicapped and weren't able to really do that. My grandmother was not of the age, she was elderly, wasn't able to do that. It kind of just fell here, and I was okay with that.
You were okay with that? You had to step up to the plate and you were okay with it. How did you rationalize that in your own mind? Now you have to take care of your abuser. It was the right thing to do. I mean, obviously it was who you are.
I don't think rationalize is the right answer.
Okay.
I'm writing a book about all this, and a part of writing the book is very cathartic. It's flushing this stuff out. And in writing the book, the last pages of the book are going to be a letter to him as forgiveness. Sure. That letter is not written in its entirety because the work's not done, but it's close. I don't know that I viewed it as anything other than the task at hand.
Okay.
Like nobody else could do it. I'm going to do it. What does it mean? It means I changed his fucking bedpan. It means that I emulsified food and held a cup so that he could drink, the liquid chicken. It means that I let the nurse in so that they could change him, and I endured some nasty words in the process.
That was what I was going to ask. Was there any point, did he always double down, or was there any point at which you saw that something was breaking through, that he understood the atrocity and the irony? Never?
Michael Sensei, I don't know if you're going to like this response, but there is an answer. And the answer is, he was in the bed, and I nursed him for 2 months, and as soon as he could get up, he completed suicide via carbon monoxide poisoning in his mother's car, in her driveway, and he left a suicide note that was just to me, and he put it where he said he was going to put it, and in his suicide note, he blamed me for why he had to die. So doubled down is unfortunately the answer. So,
wow.
When he killed himself.
on that, I want to say this. Mm-hmm. That last letter was 100% validation that it was all on him. 100% validation that he was a broken human animal with no capacity for any humanity, any understanding, any empathy, anything. Blaming everybody for his brokenness. And hopefully that gave you at least confirmation at that point that this was just
not in the moment.
Not in the moment.
Not in the moment. It took later to get to that realization, and I think that a detriment of being a martial artist is that we are so goddamn sure mind, sure-footed, right? I have dedicated myself to so many things, and if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And so I have problem marrying the fact that he was just a broken man and feeling sorrow for the fact that he's broken with the fact that, oh, but everything he put me through, I could be broken and I'm not.
Yeah.
And you're not.
Yeah.
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 George Allen, football coach of the LA Rams and eventually the Washington Redskins, he used to say, adversity doesn't build character, it just reveals it. And then we can build upon that, but it simply reveals it. You know, whatever adversities he went through, his character was fully revealed in that. And all of the atrocities that you went through, your character was revealed. Your character was completely revealed. You know, there are two kinds of people. That are two kinds of people who are abused. They are people, my family, that will say, I will never be like that, and are. And there are people that will say, I will never be like that, and never are. You know, you made a serious point of fulfilling that second. So,
yeah.
Was
indeed. Wow. That was actually an expansion on it, too, so we didn't go through all of that in flashback, and, man, that, it helps inform, like, way you are now and how you think, especially as martial arts, but as a Buddhist and as an instructor, because it makes sense to. I hear very few people talk about this with forgiveness, but not for the other person, for ourselves. That's one of those lessons I love, because once you can heal those parts of yourself, you can be better. But it's not something that I hear a lot in martial arts specifically. You hear a lot about it in philosophy. You hear a lot about it in Buddhism and Taoism and those types of things. But pairing those things together, I think, is excellent. And the reason why we love your work really is excellent. Things I love about you is you have interviewed more people than I have, more people than Michael and I have. You've done so many with so many martial artists. That's insane. That the amount of lessons that you've been able to absorb there. I'm very envious, because I want to get to that number of how many people I can be like, can we talk to that many people, please? That, especially from senseis and sifus and all, because all have those. Yeah, it's just excellent to be able to take all of that collective knowledge and absorb it. So this one's the lessons from the host chair. You've interviewed many martial artists. What surprised you the most? What assumptions changed, and who changed your mind?
I think that this has a lot of layers to it, and the very, 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 very first layer is a bit of a pitch point. It's a funny one. I used to hate Taekwondo in its entirety, but that's because American style Taekwondo got a really bad rap in the 90s, you know? And then you hear somebody studying Taekwondo and you're just assuming that they're studying oh, so he's going to hit me in the head and then back up and I've got it from here, you know? I'll get him on the withdrawal. But so then meeting traditional Taekwondo practitioners studying Korean Taekwondo, or even it's the traditional Taekwondo being more akin to Hapkido and traditional Shotokan styles than it being what I was informed of in the 90s as a teenager. So that was the first layer. That's the first little layer of our cake. And we'll call that the icing, because I have nothing but love for my Taekwondo friends now. But
yeah, there's some badasses out there. Taekwondo Ninja, we kick your head off
for sure
in the blink of an eye. Jeremy,
100%.
Jeremy came, but I agree with you. It got a bad rap because of a certain element that became prolific. You know, that style of Taekwondo took over, and all of the good stuff kind of just fell into the shadows. Right.
Yeah, and Jeremy and I talked about it, you know, and what Jeremy very politely said, he said, look, if you're teaching just for competition, advertise that.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
That's good. That's great.
And he was one of the very first creators. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
Jeremy was one of the very first creators that I saw respond to trolls with, come sign the waiver.
That's right. That's right. Just come on. Just come on. So I think if I could sum it up best, I will quote Conrad Bowie on one of my podcasts. I interviewed a gentleman named Conrad. If you don't know who he is, finding him and following him is one of the best martial arts follows that you can do. And his comment section proved to me that us as martial artists need to stop commenting on other martial artists' posts because we don't know what we're saying, because he does a form immaculately. And they're like, that doesn't look good. And I'm like, what are you looking at? But he said, right. He was saying, when I study a new art, I also like to learn some of the language. I like to taste the food. I like to study a bit of the history because you're taking in the whole culture. And this thing that we have done is so entirely massive. It's larger than all of us put together. But now we are fortunate enough that I can not only understand karate and all of the facets that karate is and all of the cultures that karate is, but in Louisville, Kentucky, where I'm from, there is a strong community of African American martial artists, and they have their own culture and society that's been ingrained for 20 plus years here, that is now this beautiful budding garden that is something else to peruse. And it just gives you the opportunity that community is important. You know?
Yeah. Very, very well said. I love that. A couple years ago, we did this video about that, seeing comments back and forth. And one of the things I mentioned in there was, if you don't have a minimum of a black belt in that style, you shouldn't be able to speak on it. Because there's things that are going to be around different facets of it. And the minimum should be black belt, because then you have at least the basic understanding of what the whole picture looks like, even if you don't go all the way up to the highest level. But outside of that, I know a lot of people who went through to jiu-jitsu and got to like blue belt, and then, and I have 60 grappling techniques, but the guys who are brown belts and black belts have things I don't, and nobody really questions that efficacy. The only thing that we really question about jiu-jitsu is if they're a school that does striking with their doing it as well, because that's going to be a part of it. But
right.
I love the example with Taekwondo, because I have seen people who can kick faster than I can block.
Oh yeah.
I looked at that and I was like,
100%.
Man, that's kind of scary. Okay, so, no matter what it is, to be looking at the picture of, I don't like the individual. I think it should come down to the individual, because I can't do Kempo the way Parker can do Kempo, but I can do Kempo mostly in my lineage how Paul Mills could do it. And being at his size, there's going to be different things and playing to different strengths. I love that answer, though. So his name was Conrad what?
Conrad Bowie, B-O-I.
What do you remember what episode it was? I'm going to look it up on your channel.
Oh, I don't know the episode number.
Okay. Look like it, yeah. That's excellent. I would like to do that.
AI, check it out, please.
Yeah. There you go. So, before in a quiet presence, who was the first person who genuinely intimidated or deeply impressed you without ever threatening you? What made their presence so powerful?
His name was Mike Whiting. He was the first man that ever taught me. Whiting. Yeah. He's the first man that taught me martial arts. He was the appropriate level of gentle and firm that I needed as a student.
Awesome.
He would be compassionate, caring, and nurturing when it was needed, and firm when it was requested, and he could know the difference and switch on a dime.
That's an excellent answer.
Yeah, I don't believe in accidents. I believe in, I don't know what the fuck I believe in at all, but that certainly
that happens with me.
Same.
Yeah. We always say, when the student is ready, the teacher arrives. This seems like a perfectly serendipitous situation, and that was shouting.
Yes. Yes.
That's awesome. All right, the biggest lie. What's the biggest lie martial artists tell themselves?
That we're tough. Right? We have all the answers, apparently. Yep, all of the answers. Actually, I think the answer for me has to be that we've got it, that we're done. And all of us have set like some sort of arbitrary like thing. And when we start, it's probably black belt, and then you get to black belt and you're looking around, you're like, it's probably not black belt, but then maybe they set that at 3rd degree or 4th degree, and then once they hit a certain point, they hang it up and they're like, I don't have to learn anymore. And that has to be the answer for me. I was talking to somebody, and we were talking about, I'm hosting a free event here in Louisville in a couple of weeks, and I've decided that my seventh class is going to be a group class. So like, you give everybody options throughout the day, and then you bring them all together at the end of the day. And it's going to be tango for martial arts, help improve, footwork and all of the lot. And one of the guys was like, yeah, but as we get older, we are less inclined to want to do things that make us look bad or stupid. Why? We claim to hold on to this thing that we all claim to love, and we all started in the same way of, let me go look foolish and fucking ridiculous and do this thing. Why do we have to change? Let's stay what we were. That's right. What you should be if you're doing white belt mentality. That's white belt mentality.
I like the distinction between white belt mentality and learners, or student mentality. Yeah.
Man. Yeah. Okay. So, Michael, the questions are genius, and your answer is like a perfect segue, because the next question is the unfinished journey. So, what part of yourself has martial arts never been able to fix?
I don't think that there are things that are. I don't think everything's always fixable. So some things are not fixable. You gentlemen are probably familiar with kintsugi, the pottery being melded back together with gold, right?
Yep.
No.
No?
It's a Japanese concept. Yeah.
Are you for real?
Tell me about it.
Yeah.
Maybe. Tell me about it.
Maybe.
It's called kintsugi. Okay, I'm probably butchering the pronunciation because I'm just a poor old country boy from Kentucky. But a pottery that is broken is then mended back together by pinning the pieces melting gold to put in the crack. So it's then melded together with gold, right? And the concept is based on the perfection definition in Japan. So an American might look at a sidewalk that has a crack and go, it's broken. It's not perfect.
Right.
Japanese perfection is, there's a sidewalk that allows me to walk the direction that I'm going, and it holds me up. It's perfect because it exists.
It's functionally perfect.
A bowl that was made out of ceramics is perfect. It's dropped. It's in pieces. We mend it back together with gold. It is then perfect. Right?
In fact, it's more valuable than it was initially.
It's more valuable than it was initially.
Scars are filled with gold.
So I am, the cover of my book is from here to here-ish, like, solar plexus to like bottom of the nose-ish, black and white with me in a gi, okay? And the only bit of color is where gold leaf has been put on my scar, my pectus chest scar, which I have on my chest. It's about that big.
From that childhood.
Yeah. And so,
activity of the chest.
Right. I think that my answer is the things that it hasn't helped me heal are only because I was hanging on to them when I didn't need to be. And now that I am choosing the Taiji way of gather and release, more of them are not needing to be healed because they are no longer present.
Wow.
And you are as valuable a vessel as you ever were. Yeah, that almost takes me back to, I want to do a follow-up on way back when you talked about your uncle and how it wasn't until his death that you felt really any kind of security. Am I strong manning you? There was always that sense of insecurity. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm steel manning, good. Okay, that I think is such a common phenomenon that people don't deal with. When I was probably about 40, there was a woman who shot her child's molester, her son's molester, and willfully went to jail. But I remember her first public statement was, I knew he would never have any peace as long as he knew this man was still alive. Whether he was in prison, whether he was in anything. For a young guy at 40, wrapping my brain around that was challenging. But it didn't take a whole lot of time. I did realize that if I was an 11, 12, 16-year-old child, it wouldn't matter if that motherfucker was in prison. It wouldn't matter if he was on another continent. If he was still alive, there's some nasty thread connecting us. There's
a fear that exists. I remember being at my own house where the abuse was not present and fearful to fall asleep. What if he shows up here drunk? You know, like, you don't know.
Right.
You don't know. I did know that he would drive drunk. I did know he didn't have a problem with that. He didn't have a problem with going to jail. You know, he obviously didn't have a problem with hurting me. So what's to stop him from that?
Right.
And so, like him ceasing to exist, I would not say that that brought me peace so much, is that it just allowed me to take a breath. And in that breath, you can go, well, he's not around. Who else hit you? Nobody. Nobody else hit me. I got in a couple of fights. I got in a couple of fights in middle school, and it was always people that wanted to fight me. And I remember at least 3 times doing this. I got hit once. I strong-armed the hit, like took it, just ate it. And then I looked back at the person that was hitting me and I said, my uncle hits me harder than that. You have to do better. And they walked away. So like
walked away.
I mean, I'm also a very tall person and have been tall my entire life. So I was in the 97th percentile for height everywhere. So any school bullies looked up as they were trying to do something. So
yeah. Sounds excellent.
And the reason that I like make that distinction between peace and, you know, just the breath is, the one thing that I try to do with my own story is be as forthcoming as possible and as genuine as possible. Because I want the person that's going through this, I want them to listen and I want them to hear it and I want them to understand that they're not alone, they're not the only person that's gone through stuff, but that they can make it out the other side. But I don't want to make the other side seem like it's all flowers and rainbows. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, because, if he found peace when the guy died, no, I didn't necessarily find peace. You know, I want to make that
Have you
clear.
come closer to it in all the years since?
Michael Sensei, I am sitting in the bedroom of the house that I was abused in.
Okay. So
The house was built in 1952, and when my last uncle passed away, we were told that the house was going to charity and that we weren't getting it. My mother and I, being the last living heirs, and we were kind of okay with it. We were like, fine, whatever. Then 2 years later, my mom's being sued for back taxes. I ended up buying the home, and I am in the process of renovating it. This bedroom is where the sexual assault took place.
The one you're in right now?
The one that I'm in right now, sir.
So you defeated that demon.
I have.
At least you're willing to stand in front of that demon every day and say, I'm not afraid of you.
The past 2 years of my life in owning this house, I can say that I want to live. Not just that I don't want to die, but that I want to live. I enjoy it. I genuinely and sincerely enjoy who I am as a person and am proud of who I am. And it took a lot to get there. You know, and we talked about the suicide letter being like an indication of him being a broken man, right? When we took this house over, it had sat vacant for 2 years. My grandfather built this house with his hands. You know, it means a lot to me. I got my affinity for jazz here. I learned how to question the political system and think for yourself here from my grandmother, who had me reading Plato and Socrates and Descartes. And I have a lot of good memories here too. You know, it's not all bad. And this became a place where I could rip out the bad and then purge it and get rid of it, and I could make it my own. So I was sitting here and like we're toying around with the idea, you know, because like it's a whirlwind of things. The house is going to charity. It's not going to charity. We're being sued. We got to figure that out. There's all these moving parts. We get with an attorney, and immediately it was like, "Are you moving back into that house?" I said to my mom, and she was like, "No, I don't want to move there. There's too many bad memories there." She's like, "I saw my dad die there. You know, like just it's like, no, I get it. I understand it." And then she's like, "I think we'll probably sell it, and I'll just split the money with you." And I was like, "What if I bought it?" And she, at this point in time, knew the story. And she's like,
Of course.
You want to live there? And I was like, maybe. A friend of mine who's a locksmith got us in. And it was kind of like going into a relic of a museum, so to speak, because all of the family stuff is just kind of there. And the uncle that abused me, all of his stuff was still in the basement. And I thought that was so weird because he'd been gone for decades, you know? And in going through his stuff, because when you come into that situation, not only do you have to deal with the emotional, but you have to deal with the logical. I have to search this place to see if there's a deed. We have to know if there's a deed. We have to know if there's a will to enact, you know? So like, you have to be both logical and then also let the emotions do whatever the emotions are going to do. And so I'm sitting here and I'm going through all this stuff, and I get to my uncle's stuff, and I pick up a picture that he had kept, and it was a picture of his ex-wife, and he scratched her eyes out and scratched bitch on the photo, and on the back had written a very nasty like letter to her. And like, this is not one picture. I'm seeing this on multiple pictures, and he's like circling people and drawing lines through them. And like as I'm doing that, I'm reprocessing. I'm living through a lot of emotions. I'm feeling the moisture that's in the basement. That's a problem for me, and that smell of dirt and mildew. And I'm in the moment as much as I can, and practicing my Zen Buddhism. This is now. This is what matters. And in that moment, I said, I'm sorry that you were so broken.
Good.
He was clearly just so hurt in some capacity.
That was the day you earned your 7th job.
I don't know about all that, but yeah, that was so. It's been a process. Is the answer, you know?
Well, a really, really wise person one time was I asked them, describe your life. If you had to describe your life, how would you describe it? And they said, I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone.
Truer words have never been spoken. Oh my God.
Right. It can truly be said you understood your life if you could say that at the very end. I wouldn't trade this for anything, and God damn it, I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy.
Right,
you know?
right. Absolutely.
But before Chris gets to the next question, Michael Senseiism says, don't look for a reason, give it a purpose. And you're a perfect example of that. You know, when you look for a reason, you're asking, please, what, why, who. When you give it a purpose, you've taken control, and your whole life.
Right.
Testament to that statement.
Well, my son was like, are you sure you're able to live here? Are you sure you're able to do this or whatever? And like, he knows me and my son have a great relationship. I'm very honest and just upfront with him because I feel, again, it would be disingenuous to lie or to shelter him in some capacity for it. I always say that my son is what I would be without the trauma because he is such a kind, gentle person. I love him so much. But he's like asking all these questions, and he was like almost like kind of stressed out or anxious for me. Like, are you going to be okay? What are you going to do? Right. Blah, 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 blah. And it got to one question in particular. And he said, well, what are you going to turn it into? What are you going to do to make it different? And I said to him, I don't know, but if you come with me, we can figure it out together. Because that journey is the important part. It doesn't matter that I picked this blue for my walls, or that I picked this gray for my trim, or that door is not painted yet. You know, that doesn't matter. But what matters is that it is painted. You know, and that in painting it, as I'm painting it, and as I'm spackling the walls, I remember there was a corner here that didn't have drywall because of my head. And nobody knew that.
Oh my goodness.
But that drywall is covered.
Your head went through that right there?
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, yeah. And there was a couple of spots in the wall that were kind of like that. I found a spot on this of the ceiling. I found
when you put your head through the ceiling?
No, where I threw something. I remember I was startled and threw a toy, and the toy put a spot in the ceiling.
And all these memories, all these state-dependent memories.
Yeah.
You know, what I love about this the most is, what did we say at the beginning? Every way anybody could ever try and kill you, and anything you can do to keep your ass alive.
Mm-hmm.
Man, oh man, your uncle tried to kill you. Your uncle tried to kill you with a slow poison.
He did.
What was the most important tool for that journey to keeping yourself alive?
You know, I really, really hate to be cliche, and a lot of people, when I try and say this, they think that I am being the sensei now, and I'm giving you the martial arts lesson. right? That's because that's what it comes across as. I sincerely and genuinely, gentlemen, mean that the basics of martial arts, the fundamental movements, the stuff within the first 6 weeks of material is what saved me. It's the stuff that I come back to when I'm having a bad day. It is the stuff that I drill when I'm frustrated about other things. It's the stuff that I find the answers to other things by returning to. And it was my first light bulb of success. I was a yellow belt. I had been doing martial arts for 6 weeks. He'd only put hands on me a couple of times since then, and he would diminish my returns and say, "You're doing that stupid shit in pajamas, and it's not going to work." And he had pinned me down, and when he pinned me down, he had choked my lapel, and I was able to grab it and break the choke and push him away. I got hit for it, but I stopped the choke. I stopped the bad thing. And I was able to do it because of the basics. And no, I'm not just saying, any students watching this, I'm not just saying that for sake of having you return to the basics.
There's a lesson series we do for that specifically.
To tell people the truth.
Right.
It's called Back to Basics. It's something that Ed Parker would do with all of his black belts at every level from first all the way up, and they would sit there and drill delayed sword for the first 20 minutes and then block in set one. And I remember getting attacked with, they jumped from behind by multiple people and getting attacked with a side headlock, and the first part of Grip of Death came out instantaneously. No thought. I just bam and hit him, and the guy hit the ground, and then I booked it because there were several people. But they gave me the chance to book it because the first guy was screaming. And yeah, that's pretty excellent instructor. I know it's not, I hate to say it's cliche because you're right, it is cliche, but it is the fucking truth.
So
the
cliche.
Basic. That is going to be what comes out. All of your do Dance of Death Extended is the final technique at third degree black. And I can do the technique well, but it's really long, and delayed sword is probably likely to come out first. Then the 250th technique up there, it's going to be the basic maneuvers, because basic works, simple survives, or keep it simple silly. That's why. And that's excellent point.
Wait, that just punch. I've got that from 33 years. I've been doing that 33 years. If the muscles won't work for this, they're not going to work for an intricate. What am I going to pull out part of Statue of the Crane and do?
Right. No, you guys made me think of the story. I think I might have read it in Black Belt magazine when I was like 15, back in 1975 or 76, or something like that. But it was a story about Musashi after he had retired. When he was painting, he was practicing every day by a lake. And a young swordsman wanted to train with him, but was very afraid to confront Musashi because nobody did. And so he started watching him from afar. And he would watch him by the lake, just doing certain movements. And every week he would gain enough courage to get a little closer and closer. And eventually he was able to see that Musashi every single day was performing the exact same cut with his bokken on a bamboo tree. The very first one, the very first draw and cut that you were taught every single day for hours and hours. And at one point, after one of these training sessions, Musashi, who according to the story knew the kid was there the whole time, without turning around, he simply said, "I still haven't got it quite right, have I? Even after all these years, it's still not quite right."
I love that.
And that's exactly, that's where you're at. You know, it's good enough to save your life. It's good enough to get done what you need to get done, but it's not quite right. I love that.
Very well said. So good. All right, so we're going to the next one, and I love the flow of your questions, Michael. That's excellent. So, changing your mind, is there something that you taught years ago that you wouldn't teach today because you've learned better?
You know, I only recently have become the nonviolent guy and the trauma-informed guy. And I think that I would have done it differently in that regard. Like, I would have made that transition sooner. I think that that's the biggest thing, is that we're all these broken people as martial artists that are banging around with each other, and we've found other broken people that don't mind banging, and in doing so we create this sort of environment or reality where violence is requested when it isn't needed. And I think that everybody that has studied martial arts and taught at least the very first bit of classes, you are requesting that violence in a way that is indicating that it is the only answer. And that is the part that definitely has gone, but should have went sooner. Like there's an nauseum of ways that we can teach people how to navigate violence and achieve the correct outcome that doesn't include, but I like to punch and kick.
I love that. That's such a good point. It's why almost the majority of all martial arts instructors, when we talk about this, and even this weekend, it's seminars overlapping theme is escape. Because if we can close the door on our vehicle or to the back room and have the physical barricade that they now have to go up to the highest level of going through it, that made it so much more difficult, and I might not have to cripple this person. And I love that answer in the non-violence way, because we have a huge problem in our society of the glorification of these things, but it's going to be traumatic for him, it's going to be traumatic for me, and it's going to be really traumatic if my fucking kid sees me get to that level of violence. Everyone's going to have a bad time. But if I can close the door and stop it, then I can spare all three of us. And
I'm about to teach a seminar that I am calling The Nature of Violence, and I've gotten way too many stuffed animals, but I have gotten a bunch of stuffed animals, and I'm going to put them around the class. And it's how do we do our martial arts when all these kids are watching? How do we do the martial arts when kids are surrounded by the violence? How do we navigate it, and how is it informed, when grandma is over on the chair?
Right.
It changes things.
Yeah. That's a good point. That's one of those considerations that's not often thought of, but I never want my children or parents or anybody to see me at that level, because it's going to change them forever. They're going to look at you like you're a monster because you had to let the monster out. And especially if you're trained.
Well, I think we, as martial artists, don't take enough time to consider everything that can be considered violence and everything that can be considered trauma, right? And the example, when my son was in elementary school, was around the Sandy Hook incident. And the Sandy Hook incident, it changed things for my kid, and my kid, who was not in that town, was not in that city, was not in that state, was viscerally affected and worried to go to school for what could happen, because he saw on the news kids died at a school. And we don't get that broad in our understanding of violence. Or if we talk about something that is not that, right? When you're teaching self-defense, self-preservation, whatever, right? The management of violence, we're teaching mostly hand-to-hand combat that works really best for the violence that is opportunity based, not the violence that is emotional based. So we as instructors, we're not addressing how do I teach a student to get out of an abusive relationship.
Right.
How do I teach a student that it is time to end that, especially if that student also has trauma that's not resolved from childhood abuse? Because that student will look at you and say, I went through a lot worse when I was a kid. This is manageable.
My uncle hit me harder than that.
Yeah. Right. Who says that? But really, there's a world of difference. I had a student that I was teaching, and they were like, I had people. It was a nonprofit program that was being paid, and they were like, we're not going to give you more money unless you can show us like proof of concept that what it's doing is working. And so I brought that student into the room and slammed the door. And I stopped for a second, and they're like, what was that about? And I was like, that's proof of concept. The three of you sitting at the chair jumped. We've been working together for 6 months, and now she doesn't jump. And we couldn't say that when she walked in because she was a victim of childhood abuse.
Wow.
I love that. Oh, that's such a good lesson right there. That's it.
Well, how many martial arts schools are slamming doors randomly to help?
Right.
With that. Yeah. Turn up heavy metal or deathcore or something that's really abrasive and difficult to deal with, so that you have that audible disconnect while you're fighting. You know what I'm like?
I don't know any. and there are martial arts schools that do it. We do it in shoot house drills with law enforcement, military, private contractors, where it's duress training, auditory and visual stimuli, the flashing going on with the strobe lights, and death metal going on, and people smacking the wall and stomping the floor while you have to go out and hit. Yeah, and
Well,
so, but not in martial arts school.
You know one martial arts school. That is mine.
You do yours? Well, that's excellent.
Yes.
I was telling that with Michael. We need to go and do that, especially with cross the training. Stress inoculation is huge. You know, it's going to be loud, chaotic, and insane, and that's how it comes out.
And sometimes I make it music that people like, because if something happens at a club, you're not hanging out at a club that's got music you don't like.
Right.
You know, they're in an environment that you like and enjoy. Now, how do you navigate violence while also enjoying the song that you really like?
Right. Put some cookies in the oven and have that smell, that aroma as well. And you can have the familiarity. Those are huge things. And the concepts, what we're talking about, you're from asocial violence to familial violence. Those, there's overlapping things as far as the techniques that you could deploy, but the tactics and the willingness to do it are worlds apart. And especially if you don't want to, you know, as we say, the Bob's your uncle, get him out of the wedding, and you actually have to go hands-on and remove somebody. If it was just to do that, but especially with people who are familiar with the environment and are used to it, and then to have them take that step to that line. I love what you said about that in your interview with the familiarity you had and having to make that decision between, okay, I shouldn't be here, I don't want to be here, realizing that it's dangerous now, and I need to. Yeah. That's a huge place.
When I was 18, I took aromatherapy. They were little discs that were about this big, and what you were supposed to do with them was drop aromatherapy stuff on them and then use them, make your house smell better. I soaked them in vodka and hung them around necklaces around my neck so that scent, his scent, would not be off-putting.
Wow. That is some stress inoculation.
Psychology behind that. Stress inoculation? Is that how you would term it? Or...
I've always viewed violence as ultimately a fear response, and I think that that holds true no matter what the lens of violence is. Like if it's a violence of opportunity, it's still based out of fear of survival, not having enough, needing the money or whatever. So it holds up, I think, in all of the cases.
I think so too. Fear is the root. Everything else is justification. Go on though.
Right, and so. Part of my training and my martial arts journey, I use the word disingenuous a lot because I don't want to be that. And so it's a constant reminder, if something seems like it's not right, you have to fix it. And so I thought it's really good to polish the sword. To do the techniques that polish the sword, that's good. But if the sheath is not well protected, if the sheath has holes in it, has inconsistencies in it, then polishing the sword still doesn't do anything, right? And so I thought, if I am still fearful of something, that's a hole in the sheath. That's not going to protect. So, and I don't know if that's right. I am a Taurus, so I'm incredibly hard-headed, and in being hard-headed, I tend to do things in the most abrasive way possible in relation to myself. And
that's funny because I don't believe in astrology, and I think that's because I'm a Taurus, and Tauruses tend to be skeptical.
You know, I don't believe in astrology either. I don't. I only cite it when it benefits what I'm talking about.
And we are assholes. As Tauruses, we got our issues.
That's funny.
We totally got our issues.
So much.
Tauruses have some shit to deal with. Did you ever get any therapy?
I have done therapy 3 times. I have also shortly after my uncle killed himself, I had a very strong bout with suicidal tendencies, and I checked myself into a local hospital for 72 hours. And I remember at the end of the 72 hours, I'm walking out of the hospital. They didn't give me my shoelaces back, like that sort of situation. And they're like, "But you're all better." And I was like, "I don't feel better. I don't feel any real difference."
Right.
Yeah, walking away from the hospital without shoes or shoelaces, so my shoes are barely on my feet, having to walk, and I just remember like, well, that didn't help. You know, like what we got to do something. So
I love all your responses too, because I don't know that you know this, but I think you've done enough interviews to the point where you just can naturally segue into the next question without even having to like project that. Like you, so the next question, no kidding, is healing or revealing? Do you think martial arts heals people, or does it simply reveal the person who was already there?
I don't know that it's either. Healing indicates that it fixes. Healing indicates that it fixes. Mike Whiting said that martial arts will show who you really are and allow you to either build from it or subtract from it. I think that defines it a little bit better for me personally.
Very nice.
Because it highlights the qualities that I want, it shines a light where I don't want, and allows me the opportunity to change.
Wonderful. And that is exactly like Chris said. You said, I don't know if it's a healing. I would say that it is. But one of my keynotes is common confusions that contribute to chaos. And never confuse standard of living with quality of life. Never confuse kindness with weakness. All these. One of them is never confuse healing with a cure.
Yeah.
Because those are two very different things. You can't be cured from what happened. Fuck no. Right. But listening to you, watching you, you are evidence of healing.
Thank you. That's the goal.
Never cure.
No cure. No cure.
Well, Michael has a knack for this in finding people who have taken meaning from the tragedy and done something with it. He really does, and everybody that I've spoken to is associated with him. He has this, and this is why so many of his lessons are just phenomenal. What does the phrase "keep kicking" mean to you today? It didn't mean when you first chose the name.
So funny enough, when I first chose the name, I had no consideration for Bill Superfoot Wallace, and that was his saying. And so now I also am like, well, I guess I kind of stole a Bill Wallace's quote. But when I started it, I had lived in this space for a year. The year living in this house, it became very apparent that it wasn't going to be a standard renovation. You don't go in, tear the stuff out, and then rebuild stuff. You have to go in and intentionally say, the refrigerator's not going to be here anymore because I don't have to look around the corner while I'm getting in the refrigerator of my own fucking house. It can go over here. And so then you do that. And then you start the rebuild process and you stop and you have to go, it's okay that I can't do any more right now. I'm going to go sand this wall instead. I'm going to go do this instead. I'm going to do nothing instead. It's okay to take the time to say that you're worth making your past what you're worth. And so like, what it used to mean, keep moving forward. But now, like, every fucking good martial arts practice should have, it has a proper intention. And that's keep moving forward while making that individual moment and that individual technique as best as you possibly can, because you don't know if you get the next kick. You don't know if you get the next punch. You don't know if you get the next grab.
Mente more. I love that. Oh, man.
Wonderful.
Wow. Oh, no, I was basking in the Mente more mindset. I love your lessons. So, the Dragonfly signature question.
Wait. Okay,
the what?
Before that. When you said, just enjoy the kick in the moment, for everything that it's worth. I thought of Warren Zevon's last words on when he knew he was dying of cancer. I think he had like 3 weeks left to live. And David Letterman asked him, is there anything you'd like to say, knowing exactly what you know right now? And he said, no, unless it's enjoy every sandwich. That came to mind. That came to mind when you made that statement. If we can I always talk about perfect practice. Practice will never make you perfect, but perfect practice will always make you better. What you just described is the perfect practice. Love that. Be grateful in the moment and appreciate and honor yourself for being willing and able to do it. We love you, man.
If you have a class of students and you line them up, right leg back, we're going to do front kick. We're going to do 20. Those first 4 that every one of the students throws, they're not good. But if you line that class up and you go right leg back, we're doing a front kick. Go. They do their front kick, and then you go switch legs, left leg. They're like, wait, what happened? We're just doing 1? I was like, yeah, 1's all you got. You don't have time for the second one, man. What are we doing? It changes things.
I love that. That's awesome. So our signature question there. You can spend 50 years learning how to hurt another human being. At what point did you realize that the real art wasn't learning how to fight, it was deciding when not to?
I mean, that's probably pretty early on for me. You know, like I am very fortunate to sit here in who I am, because in choosing to not become what I have gone through, it means that I have to dissect it, I have to look at it, and have to come to some sort of acceptance. So it almost fostered me into philosophy, right? Mm-hmm. And in fostering me into philosophy, I spent 2 years weathering a lot of physical violence, feeling pain, feeling what pain feels like, and the results of it, the long-lasting results where your body aches, and the short, immediate results. I spent years caring for myself and hiding that. And so that move that I did, you know, that was instinctual. I pinned his arm so I knew where he was, spun around, I had his shoulder, and he went flying. The damage that occurred to him was not as a result of me. It's a result of the hands going around my throat. And then I responded with my response in that same language. And, like, you know, like, I have hurt people in my life. I am not an angel. But I could have a conversation with anybody about how I felt they all deserved it. You know?
Yeah.
And there's no such thing as angels, but if they were, they fly because they take themselves lightly.
That's right. There have been individuals that I have had conversations with because I found out they were abusing their girlfriends. We'll leave it at that.
But man, that's my boy. Agent of karma.
Yeah. So, yeah.
We were watching the flashback perspectives interview and doing the editing there and kind of condensing it down. And Angela, she's like, I think this guy's my new best friend. Right after you said I may or may not have brown bagged this guy's head after I found out that he was beating his girlfriend, and she was like, "Fuck yeah."
Yeah.
So hard. I was like, he's fucking awesome, isn't he? That's a good response.
I may or may not have used a burlap sack a couple times in my existence.
Yeah. You know, they call that a blanket party, and sometimes it's needed.
Right.
I love that. Okay,
Righteous indignation. I have a friend. Some people need it. I have a friend who's an attorney in Texas. He always jokes that you need to kill somebody, take him to Texas, because all you have to prove is that they were an asshole. He said we have an expression in Texas. He said in Texas we let some killers go, but we hang a horse thief. And that's because there ain't no horse that needs a stealing, but there are some people that need a killing. And they would agree 100% with
Really
the burlap blanket party. I approve. I approve of that message.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, I'm good at what I do, and I have gotten a couple apologies out of it. We'll say that.
Well, I would imagine so. Yeah, that's, you know.
Yeah. Which it's also very frustrating. Like, you hear my story and everything that the people know that I've gone through, and to have some stranger on the internet say that technique wouldn't work, I'd be like, you have no idea how well that technique will work.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, but they were blinded by the culture of media, movies, TV, and I like to say MMA too, because they think MMA is real violence. And I always like to say MMA gets violent, but it's different when a knife comes out, a gun comes out, or they're actually trying to hurt you without a referee around.
Right.
Anything you could get good at could work. If you violence of action, pull it off, absolutely.
Right.
How good do you get that thing?
And I think that's something
Give both
that
fighters.
I really have to wrap my brain around here is when you say that's not violence. You're right. It's violent, and I think you summed it up when you said it's violent, but it's not pure violence, or it's not the level of violence.
Ceremonial violence.
Yeah.
It's ceremonial violence. Even though ceremonial violence can result in death, and has occasionally resulted in death,
Right.
that's right. It's not the same as something going sideways on the street. I mean, shit, it could be a very, very simple technique, and you could whack your head on a fire hydrant, and you're a vegetable.
Yeah.
You know, it's an entirely different level of violence without a doubt.
What I always say is, you think UFC is violent? Add a book.
Yeah.
Changes things really quick.
Yes.
Changes everything. And use that book the right way, exactly.
Right.
I got one more question. You know, we've gone long, but I swear, we suck at this a little bit, but we're getting better every week.
We're getting better.
But, at the beginning, I'm looking up and I'm always going, fuck, we're 5 minutes in. And all I want is 69 good minutes. 69 good minutes, and then we got a show. But I'm like 10 minutes in, and then I look up, Paul, and it's 2 hours. I've gone by like a fluttering of an eyelash.
Oh, yeah. That's excellent. It is. Time flies, especially during these things, and you're having, time and learning. So, for the closing reflection, after speaking with so many remarkable martial artists, what 5 qualities do all truly exceptional martial artists seem to share, in your opinion?
The one we talked about is, maintaining that student mentality or whatever that is. Another one is fallibility, like expressing our own vulnerabilities and weaknesses.
Right.
And kind of in tandem with that is an aspect of community. Like, just because we're different styles or from different parts of the world doesn't mean that we can't connect and have conversation in this capacity. And I think that, like, if we don't have that community aspect as a martial artist, that also lends back to the closed-mindedness, right? 4 would probably be some sort of self-awareness, which transcends, like, it's an umbrella over everything that I just said, but it transcends that, because the bad martial artists, they can't read the room to know what other people are thinking about them, and they haven't really checked in on themselves in a way that they're not aware of what they think they are projecting versus what they are projecting, and there's a discrepancy in that. And then the 5th one, saved for last because I think it's the most important, is to keep training. And I don't know why I have to say it, but because I have to say it, that makes it the most important. Like, I've been doing it for 33 years, and when I teach, I still am on the mat with the students. I'm not sitting on a chair on the sideline bossing commands. Yes, as an instructor, there are parts that you watch to make sure, but you also participate. I am a partner in the bunkai. I am there. I want people to see that. I want people to get the real feedback of that's not going to work on this 225 pound, 6'5" guy. You're going to have to do more. You're going to have to play with the angle the right way. So I think that those are the 5. Keep training, guys. Got to keep training. I'd say.
Michael has a lesson on this one. Everything you said there is just gold, man. I tell you, it reminded me of Michael's one. I'll have to tell you it was in how where you're training more than you're teaching. You remind us of the 3?
The 3. Practice everything you preach, always train more than you teach, and keep your skill set hard to reach. And if you do that,
I have a good friend of mine. I'm happy to call him, a friend, or even Sifu, because he does teach me, or colleague. It blows my mind that I'm colleagues to some people. He says that never give back to martial arts what martial arts has given to us, but we can try. And it feels to me like a lot of people have lost the but we can try.
Right.
And people are, well, what can martial arts do for me now that I've done all this? So.
That's excellent.
Try to earn it.
We have a colleague that always talks about that with the first 5 levels of black belts are what you take from the martial arts, and the next 5 levels are what you give back. And it varies by discipline, but I thought that was so good. I was like, that's excellent. What are you doing to bring up the community, raise up the community, help the community, the students, and giving back from your skill set? I think that's just such a huge thing.
There was a point in time where I stopped saying that I was a martial arts instructor, and I just said I was a philosopher. And then I don't know if you know a lot about society in general, but philosophy it's not a big part of it. It's kind of missing. And so then I looked around one time and I was like, maybe philosophers are dying. Maybe we're dying breeds. And maybe maybe whatever comes from the ashes that the philosophers have left behind will somehow be better.
Yeah.
Mouth to Gesundheit's ears.
Right. Right.
Yeah, that's fantastic. You're a great philosopher, you're a great martial artist. You made a comment, what, you can't believe the people you call colleague? I'm humbled by it. I'm humbled by association with both of y'all and this greater community. We're going to do some work, man. I appreciate you.
We appreciate you all. Both of you.
Bring it home, Chris. What did we say at the end? What did we do for this last one?
So I think, mostly anything, we always like to give, props to you and all of your excellent lessons. Where can people find you? And you have this, I don't know, a few times, but where are your socials, your sites, all of your material?
You can find me everywhere. Sensei Coffey, Sensei Paul Coffey. You can email me at keepkickingpod. Yeah, 2 F's, 1 E, and a Y. COFFEY. Like the drink, but different.
Like the drink,
Like the different.
equally
like that.
stimulating.
Right.
Yeah.
You can also email me, keepkickingpod@gmail.com. If anybody's struggling, I'm more than reachable and receptive. I am happy to have a conversation. I'm not a licensed therapist, but I have weathered many a storm and can help you, even if you just need an ear to listen.
You can certainly give perspective.
That's for sure.
Yeah. Very, very well done, gentlemen. Thank you so much. Sensei, Michael
you.
Sensei, Paul Coffey.
Oh,
Sir.
one other thing. What's the name of your book? You're writing right now.
It's not named yet, so it's not out
No
yet.
working title. No working title.
No word.
He's got it. He doesn't have to
So-
name though, right?
Out of it.
So my first chapter is titled Cottage Cheese. Then the second chapter is White Belt. Third chapter, and it goes all the way through the belts. Then the chapter before the last chapter is Black Belt. And the chapter after Black Belt is Cottage Cheese with Pineapple.
I love that.
And if you didn't know about Kintsugi, the instructions for Kintsugi are going to be chapter by chapter in the book. So by the time you read the end, you will know how to do it.
And you'll have a completed
That's
vessel.
awesome.
That's right. That's right.
Right? By the
That's
time
so
you get
good.
to the end, you'll have the complete vessel
Yep.
with all of the cracks filled with gold.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm,
Wow. So wonderful.
that was
My friend,
excellent.
Thank you so much. This
Thank
was
you, gentlemen.
epic, and let's do it again soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Absolutely.